Our final speaker is the President of the RMT, a railway train driver and former train guard, and is also a member of the Bristol branch of the RMT, which is where the NSSN came from. Alex Gordon.
Comrades, brothers, sisters, friends, first of all, congratulations on a tremendous turnout. A few words, first of all, about the recent development of the National Shop Stewards Network. The NSSN is 5 years old this year. In October 2006, hundreds of trade unionists, lay members, active workplace reps met just down the road in the Camden Centre in London to build a grassroots campaign in support of John McDonnell's MP's Trade Union Freedom Bill, which was being tabled in the House of Commons at that time. That National Shop Stewards Network founding conference was brought together on the initiative of my union, the RMT, as a consequence of a resolution that was carried a few months earlier at that year's RMT annual general meeting, calling on the union to launch an open conference to rebuild a shop stewards movement in Britain. I'm proud that, as Dave has already indicated, that resolution came and originated from my own trade union branch, Bristol Rail RMT, and we should all be proud, I believe, in this room of what has been achieved since that founding conference of the National Shop Stewards Network in 2006. I don't want to enumerate everything, but just to touch on a couple of things. The NSSN has successfully, in my view, continued to bring together trade unionists in an inclusive and non-sectarian way at a series of national conferences with an open and participative character, which contrasts strongly with the top-down, platform speaker-led approach adopted in the past and even today by some other organisations. The NSSN has developed an open and democratic national structure. The NSSN has developed active regional structures. The NSSN has participated actively in trade union events and major events in the labour movement, from Durham to Tolpuddle and everywhere in between. The NSSN has initiated rallies, demonstrations, fringe meetings at the TUC conference for a number of years, and at many, many trade union conferences during the last 5 years. The NSSN is now officially supported by the RMT, the PCS, the Communication Workers Union, the POA and the National Union of Mine Workers. And every trade unionist here today at this special NSSN conference to discuss building a movement against the cuts should be aware that this debate over the way forward for the working class movement to build a strong and united grassroots movement of trade unionists to take back our rights at work and to support those who are fighting back already against the employers, politicians and judges who aim to shackle trade unions and turn the clock back on social and welfare rights to a pre-welfare state era. This is the most important debate affecting the National Shop Stewards Network today. And I believe for the NSSN to take a spectator seat in that battle, the battle that has already started against austerity cuts, the cuts announced by George Osborne on the 20th of October last year, to ecstatic applause from government supporters and city bankers alike. For us not to engage in that battle would, of course, damage the NSSN's credibility in the eyes of all serious fighting trade unionists who are fighting the impact of condemned cuts as they're implemented in the NHS, in local authorities and across the public sector over the next 4 years, but particularly over the next 6 months as the job losses begin to bite. Now, the NSSN was founded explicitly to campaign in support of an overtly political demand, the demand for trade union freedom, and the campaign to support John McDonnell MP's bill, the Trade Union Freedom Bill, back in 2006. And although John's private member's bill was frustrated by Labour government whips from reaching a second reading in the House of Commons, allow me to remind comrades here today that support for the Trade Union Freedom Bill was itself the subject of heated political debate amongst trade unionists and socialists, and that some on the left argued that the bill should not be supported because it did not go far enough. And I remember hearing that argument motivated even in my own union branch back in 2006. And it was wrong at that time, and it was wrong in retrospect now. And equally, there have been those who have argued that the founding constitution of the National Shop Stewards Network should not have included a ban on the NSSN becoming involved in internal trade union elections. In retrospect, again, that was a correct and wise decision. Imagine how damaging it would have been to the unity of this conference and this body if the recent election for the first General Secretary of Unite had been the subject of position-taking and votes at an NSN conference. There were even those who argued when the NSSN was established that it was wrong for it to accept £5,000 from my union to help it to maintain the new organisation. Fears of bureaucratic interference have been greatly exaggerated. The NSSN has a constitution that enjoins it to support campaigns from TUC-affiliated unions, and the biggest and most important campaign at this moment in this country is the campaign against the austerity cuts. It is essential that the NSSN openly and democratically debates its own role in that campaign, and when this conference decides on the way forward for NSSN, all comrades should get behind that democratic decision of the conference delegates here today. No splits, no recriminations, no gifts to those who wish ill to what we've built. And finally, comrades, I want to remind delegates about the deteriorating and disastrous state of UK anti-union legislation. Just this week, a new judgment in the High Court in London against my union has raised new obstacles to workers seeking to lawfully engage in collective industrial action. The case last Tuesday and Wednesday of Serco Docklands Light Railway versus RMT has highlighted yet again the inadequacy of the current strike laws from the point of view of workers and their ability to be interpreted by judges in ways that were inconceivable even a couple of years ago. On top of the scandals of last year over the BA versus Unite judgment and the Network Rail versus RMT judgment, which imported into legal decisions to grant injunctions European Court of Justice rulings on proportionality. This week's decision sets us back, in my view, a long way and has to be taken on board by the comrades here. While the previous decisions had recourse to minor balloting errors in order to invalidate overwhelming democratic decisions by trade unionists to take industrial action, we now have a judgment that goes even further. This week, a judge found that the language used by the union in notifying the employer of strike action was unlawful. And in particular, he drew attention to the RMT's use of the word audit to describe the method by which it had arrived at a true and reliable, accurate record of its members whom it was calling on to take strike action in the company concerned, Dockland Light Railways. Thanks, Dave. That was after an 80% yes vote in an industrial action ballot. The judge said that the word audit implied an outside third party overseeing the membership records of the union. Effectively, comrades, this judgment puts us on the road to some sort of corporate state overseeing union membership records if they engage in industrial action. Even more worryingly, the judge agreed to the arguments of the employers that the union should allow the employer to have oversight of every single detail of correspondence and email between trade union lay representatives and officers that led up to the calling of the strike ballot. Now, the reason that these judgments are appearing right now is, of course, entirely connected with a massive fight that looms over public sector spending cuts. Comrades, we need the National Shop Stewards Network to play a full part in that battle. Please don't let us down. I hope you have a great debate today, and I look forward to the outcome.